Did you know that 91% of charities in the UK have been negatively impacted by COVID-19? Many organizations have sought to limit the impact of the virus in various ways, the most prevalent of which is by changing their services. However, there are small charities in the UK which aren't as well known that have been struggling more than others. Today, we talk with a Coventry charity, and we're talking with General Manager Hugh Sorrill, who tells us a bit more about what they do.
So Coventry Resource Centre for the Blind, we're coming up to our 12th anniversary. We support visually impaired people, so that's blind and partially sighted people from across the whole of the city of Coventry. And actually a number of people who come from outside as well. We provide we have a sort of a number of different functions. We provide a range of accessible activities, including ones that help people learn to manage better with skills. So we have quite a lot of activities ongoing at the moment, and there's a few that haven't started again after COVID, because for various reasons, but we've not lost a few people, but some people are not yet comfortable coming back out of their homes after COVID, and that includes volunteers as well, and everything we do is supported by volunteers, really. So that's what we do, and then we also provide advice to people who've recently lost their sight or on that road, about where to go for extra support beyond us. We provide advice on and access to a whole range of daily living aids. We currently see probably about these days it's about 100 people a week who come into the centre. That's dropped since COVID, but we're not even scratching that. It's not even scratching the surface of the need, really. So there's always more to do.
Yeah, definitely. Do you work with only elderly people or all any age and stuff?
Well, we work with adults, so anybody over the age of 18. That said, we have had the odd 17-year-old come in, but we're not. The support for visually impaired children up to the age of 18 is pretty good and pretty comprehensive, through the council services and various other organisations. But most people start losing their sight later in life. I mean, most eye conditions are age-related or degenerative or both. So by the time you get to 65 and above, then 65. I think there's about 30% of people who are starting to lose their sight. By the time you get up to 75, that raises up to 65%, and when you get to the age of 90, half of people have got a visual impairment. So it's really, it's quite. I mean, that's the nature of these eye diseases, that they affect older people and they're degenerative. So that's why you have more older people than not.
Yeah. With the services you provide, you've mentioned that you have those that concentrate on the technological side. Have you seen improvement or any type of difference by using conventional methods to technological methods to help visually impaired individuals?
I mean, the world, there's a lot of the way that people have to access things these days is online.
Yeah.
Be it online shopping, applying for housing, staying in contact with family and friends. There's a lot of this is being done online now. And if you are not able to use IT to access it, then you're at a very great disadvantage. We are sort of fighting, if you like, two battles there, because because we've got older people, they're not digital natives. So, we're starting in a sense from a low base in terms of knowledge of IT, but also then there's the added, difficulty and visual impairment added into that. So when we've got people alongside who are very experienced, some of whom are visually impaired themselves, who help them, who help them achieve those aims and learn how to use the technology, or just to use the technology.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic that you have like volunteers that go through the same experiences, so they don't feel so foreign to learn.
It's absolutely, it's fairly essential in a way to what we do. We have a lot of visually impaired volunteers here, a lot. There's a good proportion. And they're people who came to us initially for help, but have learned how to manage as best they can, but are really keen to pass that information on to other people. And it makes a huge difference, to new people who come to the centre, to interact with people who've been where they are, and and are managing splendidly.
During our talk, Hugh and I discussed the different ways in which the pandemic had impacted the charity.
Well, let's start off with services. Inevitably, we were closed for 15 months because of various lockdowns and what have you. So we closed actually the week before the first lockdown in March 2020, and we only reopened last June. So that was, so it was difficult for, because for many people who come to the centre, we might well be their only outing in a week, So that was quite hard for a lot of people. But before the lockdown, we did a lot of work to set up telephone networks between our service users and volunteers, so between each other. Because we say service users and volunteers, but actually, they're friends. They come, they spend time together, have a good laugh. So everybody is friends. But we needed to sort of ask everybody whether we were allowed to pass on telephone numbers and everything. Before we hit lockdown. So we did that, so that when the lockdown came, people were able to, we were able to say, right, okay, here's a list of people that you can call, here's a list of people who are going to call you, etc., etc. So everybody kept, and so we kept it pretty tight. We kept the relationships going throughout that period. That's really as much as we were able to do in terms of our service delivery. It kept things ticking over, but it wasn't, obviously it wasn't what we wanted to do. So as soon as we were allowed to open, pretty much, I think we were probably allowed to open middle of May last year, but we obviously, the staff came back, and then we had to sort of work to get the centre clean and prepared and everything ready to operate under sort of social distancing restrictions. So we managed to open gradually from June onwards to September, when we opened sort of more fully. We have lost volunteers, not particularly, not to COVID necessarily, but people who are no longer confident enough to come out and support, and they sort of fell out of the habit of it. So we have felt that. Actually, in terms of revenues, where we've seen, obviously we lost. We asked people to contribute to the activities that we run here when they come, and obviously we lost all of that revenue. There were a number of grants around, COVID grants, for charities, and those definitely helped us through. So we didn't actually see, in gross terms, a loss of income over the year. I suspect over the 2 years we will have done, but in the main part of the pandemic, we were fine. We were operating. The charity as a corporate entity wasn't in danger. which was good. But we have lost. We did lose a number of fundraising opportunities. The level of donations that we got plummeted. So it's not that's been difficult, and it's hard work to get those up and running again. But we're working on it and getting there, and hopefully we'll get back up to it. So it's okay on that side of things. Well, actually, we've only got a very small staff really. So we've got 5 people who are employed by the charity. I'm the only full-time member of staff. We've got somebody on 4 days a week, and others, with a bit, with somewhat less. But yeah, we're pretty tight. We kept together in a WhatsApp group over the lockdowns and everything. And it, I think everybody was very pleased to get back here, because we enjoy what we do. It's rewarding, and we miss the people who come to the centre, volunteers and service users alike. So yeah, I think people are better now that we're back.
Yeah. So since you've been back from lockdown, what's been the most challenging thing? Has it been to adapt to the new circumstances?
Yes, pretty much. We've had to restrict group numbers, when we first opened, we restricted group numbers to sort of try and ensure social distancing and everything. We had a COVID outbreak here in September. I think October it was. So somebody came in asymptomatic, on a day. She found out 3 days later that she was positive, she was unwell, and because she'd been here and been in a couple of largish groups, it ripped through us, and we had about 15 people, come down with COVID. And so fortunately everybody's recovered, but that was difficult. That was a really busy, hard time, because in a sense, what we do here is the opposite of social distancing. One of our core things is to help prevent social isolation, and when you're working with visually impaired people, you actually have to work up close, because you have to guide people. They'll hold onto your elbow as you're walking somewhere. You have to sit next to them to do stuff. To help them out where they need it. So, it's, I suppose in a way we're sort of more at risk because of the nature of what we do, but also, but we absolutely have to do it, because there are people who are so, who are so desperate for the support that, we just, it's that toss-up. We want to give people the support they need, despite the risks, really, in many respects.
In April, the charity will be celebrating its 12th anniversary. He tells us a bit more about what they have planned for the future.
What we are doing at the moment is that this month we're taking part in something called the 250 Challenge, or Take On 250. So there's an umbrella group of sight loss charities called Visionary, and they're working with the RNIB they've created this 250 challenge, which is a fundraising thing, but it's also to raise awareness of the fact that 250 people a day start to lose their sight in the UK. So this fundraising challenge is about doing something 250 times, or something to do with 250. So, for example, all the staff here, we are getting on a static bike, and between us, cycling 250 kilometres, and getting people to sponsor us for that. So that's happening through January. All these fundraising things we have to do, because we need to do fundraising, because we don't get any public money whatsoever. All the money that we need, which is a lot, we have to find from somewhere, and so it goes through fundraising, goes through. We have a couple of charity shops, various other things, and we get grants. We apply for grants from trusts and foundations, like all charities do. But we also have to do these fundraising events as well. I mean, the fundraising events serve two purposes. They raise money, they raise awareness, and they're fun. And we're a community as well as a charity. So.
Yes. Where do you want the money to go? Like any new services or any new?
Yes, well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, the money has to pay for existing services as well. And to be honest, we're a people heavy. I said we're not people heavy, but we're a people-centered organisation, and what we do requires people to do it. So our staff costs are our biggest expense. Frankly, I'm the biggest expense the charity has, but big single expense. But we're needed. I'm needed. I'm definitely needed.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. But yeah, look, we do have. Look, as I said before, although we see sort of 100, 120 people, we are not even close to scratching the surface of need in Coventry. There are 2,000 people in Coventry who are registered blind or partially sighted. There are another 2,000 odd people who could be registered. I mean, registration is just if you're blind or partially sighted, you can register as such. You don't have to. So there are 2,000 odd people who aren't registered, and then another 2,000 people who could be but are not registered. Beyond that, there's probably another 5,000 people who are, that close to being, falling within the parameters of visual impairment. So, there's probably 9,000 people out there who potentially we could be supporting. I mean, we're never going to support that many. We couldn't deal with it, but at 100, with 100, I say we've got 100 people or so coming every week. We've probably got a couple of hundred people within our orbit, people that we know who don't come regularly, people who support, on an ad hoc basis, up to that. So yeah, so there's a lot more that we want to do.